And I am live. Hello, everyone. All one of you watching the live right now. um, so happy Wednesday. I wanted to look back through all of my old videos and see when I started doing these, because I'm pretty sure that I've been doing these live energy updates about a year now, I want to say. But maybe I'm being a little overzealous and saying it's been a year now, but I know that I have been doing this for quite a bit now. So welcome and thank you for hanging out with me this Wednesday night. It is the last energy update of March, because April 1st is right around the corner. It's next Monday. So, wow, we have three now. Welcome, welcome. For those of you who don't know me, which I think most of the people who follow the channel right now know who I am, but my name is Malia and I am with Innerperfect. And I do these lives every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So welcome. So pounding a coffee, just recommended because I'm tired. I am sure I will perk up here in a few minutes. How are you guys doing? Any commentary? How was that lunar? Hi, Angela. Hi. How was that lunar eclipse that I missed myself because I had something in my brain? I was like all ready to watch the eclipse and it had happened, like the day before or the night before. It was really lame for myself. But I don't know if anybody got to see the eclipse, whether you saw it or not, or even if you were on the other side of the world and it was daytime, eclipses still happen, right? We still feel the energy of the eclipse. This was, of course, a full moon that we got through, and now we are moving through the eclipse portal gateway to the solar eclipse on April 8th. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about technology now is like, even if you can't see an eclipse happening, let's say there's, it's something that's happening, like a lunar eclipse and it's daytime for us and it's on the other side of the world, you can still watch it. It's usually live streamed, whether it's, I guess sometimes NASA does it, and then there's other YouTube channels. So you can always catch it to kind of just see it, right? But I'm sure there are recorded versions of it too. This was a penumbral eclipse, so it wasn't a full eclipse. And so I believe it was kind of more of like a discoloration of the moon. It wasn't, I mean, it's never completely blocked out, but it wasn't as dark as some of the full eclipses are. But as we've talked about the last couple of energy updates, we are in this portal energy with the eclipses, meaning we just had the lunar eclipse. We have a solar eclipse coming up. We are in the Aries Libra eclipse axis right now. We are fully balanced into that. And so I feel like that this portal energy is a bit more intense than maybe other times because things are just so lined up. And sometimes I'm super astrology heavy when I talk about things in our energy update. I know that I've kind of tried to cover a lot of the bases the last couple updates that we've done. But just to kind of recap for you, April 8th is the solar eclipse. Mercury will be going retrograde on April 1st. Okay, so we have that influence kind of smack dab in the middle of these two eclipses. And Aries and Libra being those polar opposites on the zodiac wheel, divine feminine, divine masculine. We are really looking at our theme of relationships with this eclipse energy, this revealing, making changes, making adjustments, letting go of energies that no longer serve you, really kind of making room and ushering in what does, what works. So you might be feeling a lot of shifts in your personal life, or you might not. Things may be kind of, going swimmingly, right? But what I am noticing, and whether we can say that I'm noticing by observing what's going on kind of more globally, across our country, in the world, seeing how other people are experiencing these energies, or even like driving in traffic and how you experience interacting with people, in that way. Um, as a side note, traffic and how people are behaving when they're driving could totally let you know what is going on with the moon, or astrologically speaking. People acting a fool if it's like a full moon, or something is off. It is quite interesting to see, right, how everyone is affected by these energies, whether they're watching the energy update or keeping up with all the astrology or not, right? So, um, okay, so circling back though to what I was saying about relationships and talking about kind of the more global vibe, and how everything is um kind of more largely amplified and mirrored in our big world around us, is that when we think of relationship, and whether it's like partnerships or connections between people and government, or companies, or alliances, and transactional things, right? Even money is an exchange of energy, or that's really what it is. I agree that there's this thing that has value, and then there's this stuff that also has value that I need, and then we exchange one for the other, right? But looking at kind of the more, let's just say, like, global, just talking about like kind of the big picture in the world, and our relationship and our place in that, that is being, maybe some buttons are being pushed, some things are being exposed, and old energies are being revealed, so that that can be cleared, moved out of the way for these new energies that are coming in. And energy's always cycling about, right? Energy's always, it's never stagnant. And we see that with astrology. We move through all the signs of the zodiac throughout the year. The moon moves more swiftly through the signs. So it is cyclical, and we kind of do get all these different nuances and flavors of energy. But um, as you know, astrology and all of these different calculations and energies are multi-layered. There are so many different things that are aspecting, that are transiting, that are affecting us as we are on this somewhat round ball of water and rock and all the things, spiraling through space. We are moving through these energies, and these energies are affecting us, and there's like solar flares, right? So, the global vibe, to me, feels very brewing and stewing, on the topsy turvy end. It feels like, uh, you know, there's a lot of things that are possible, um, and as far as what can happen, what can, um, yeah, just what can happen, and as things are outgrown, or people, societally speaking, or groups say this isn't working anymore, right? Um, there are growing pains in those shifts, or can be, right? And even it's just maybe the feeling of like not knowing what is coming down the pipeline, where things are going to land, and that brings about, a sense of, insecurity or fear, or a sense of lack or short, being like, having shortages. And I'm not necessarily even speaking about like supply chain stuff, but there is that. But whenever we are kind of in that deep survival, fight or flight kind of primal energy, root chakra, the bedrock, the foundation is kind of moving and shifting or falling away, that accesses our more primal fears, where it's like, am I safe? Am I going to have the food that I need? And am I going to be able to provide for myself or for my family? Right. So I feel like there's a lot of just kind of like a lot of things are up in the air. People aren't sure how everything is going to fall into place, and when that's going to happen, right? So, when we look at the astrology of things and we look at patterns, I'm kind of not obsessed, but I love looking at like Nostradamus stuff or Edgar Casey, these people who channeled information, whether Edgar Casey was kind of more of in our modern time. Nostradamus was, several hundred years ago. It is interesting to kind of see if there's anything that lines up because energy, although I don't believe that we have like a predestined structure of our reality. I believe that there are certain energies that are very strong and the trajectory or the course gets set and we're kind of all just being carried in that, right? But we can make choices, adjustments, other things can happen. I mean, the universe is kind of like temporary ordered chaos, but it likes chaos. So which some people are like, oh my God, that sounds horrible, right? I just need a plan, stick to the plan. But when we can change, we can affect energies. Um, but just one person having intention or will can definitely affect their life experience, right? But it's harder for one person to maybe change the whole course of the human race, right? Or, the whole global, vibe, like to shift that. But of course, when we do connect to others, whether it is in community or with it is group meditation or your energy is in alignment with and entrained with others and you're raising your vibration, there's power in numbers, right? That can have an influence and an energy and kind of like provide like a tipping point for things to change. And I'm not saying that like, well, just because you as an individual is just one person and really how much of a difference can you make, so don't bother. I'm not saying that, you and your life experience is truly the most important thing as an individual. That is the most important thing is just your life experience for you. And there are some people that came into this lifetime to have the life experience of being those change makers, of being those rabble rousers, of being those, activists and protesters or policy changers or whatever too, right? And they do make a difference. They do inspire a lot of people. But when you're able to focus on your life path and your experience in it, and to try to have as much of your energy, your focus, your awareness into the present moment and into your like invested into your life experience, then it's like you get the most out of each moment instead of kind of being like a blur, right? Or having like I kind of scratch the surface of that experience, so I'm going to do it again and I'm going to do it again so I get, some kind of a deeper experience of that. Which I mean, that's fine. There's really no judgment on like whatever anyone chooses to do in their lifetime. But when you're able to focus on yourself and your immersion into the present moment and into your experience, that's really all that you have to do. And with all of modern life and distractions and just being a human and all the moving parts, right, to keep up with, that is really quite a challenge for most people, right? Just to be in the present moment, to be present and aware and your mind isn't wandering, you're not multitasking, you're doing 10 different things, but just to be anchored in the moment is quite a challenge, for most people. But it is a worthy endeavor. And I feel like when people have their energy anchored in, I mean, if you look at, let me just to explain this, if you look at time or your life or whatever on a line, even though time's not really completely linear, but on earth we experience it that way. So it's a line, and you are there at the line, on the timeline, in this moment in time, right? But let's say that your thoughts are elsewhere. Your thoughts are reaching towards the future. They're focused on another person or a situation. They're kind of like bleeding out into the past. Uh, let's say that not only are your thoughts as energy are kind of spread out or spread thin, but that your physical body is maybe trying to keep up with and do multiple things at the same time, or like, well, I'm doing this for a moment, so I'm kind of invested into this activity, but then I've also got to be doing this or remembering that, right? Um, so just in those two things, your thoughts and then your physical actions on this timeline at this like intersection, time and space in this moment, um, is all of your energy really here? Is all of your energy fully present, or is it kind of like spread out, and it's not bad to think about the past, maybe, to inventory what you've learned. It's not bad to have goals or to look towards the future, or to be, sending energy or thoughts to another person or anything. None of that's bad. But how present do you feel in this very moment? And if it's like, you know, there's a small percentage or even half or whatever it is, you're not fully experiencing what this moment has to offer. And as we experience reality, this very moment is the only reality that we have. The past is not an accessible reality. The future has not happened yet, right? So just think of your immersion into this moment, and this very moment, this present moment, um, how impactful it can be, first and foremost, for your experience of what this moment is, right? And then how much more of an impact, or how much more like will, or energy that you have if everything's present here and concentrated. And I'm doing this because it's like if those thoughts, those energies or whatever are scattered all over the place, it's like those are pieces of you, of your energy that are spread out. And so only a fraction of yourself is actually here in the moment, if that makes sense. So that's why meditation, that's why, even just like exercise, physical activity where you can just kind of really get in the zone, yoga, anything like that is so good for you, mind, body, spirit, but so that you are anchoring everything in this present moment. That's why it's so good for you and it's so essential. It's not just stress management, right? Because the funny thing about stress is like people get stressed all the time about things that they have absolutely no control over, right? And yes, you yourself and the attitudes, the actions that you take, you have control over. But other people or situations, we can choose to interact with something outside of us. We can choose to not engage. We can choose to, you know, make different decisions, whatever it is. But that is something outside of us. And so we have control over our interaction or our non action. But then that other person or situation has its own free will, right? Or its own inertia, its own energy. And we truly don't actually have control over that. uh, we like to think that I don't know, we'd like to think that we would feel better if we did, but we don't. There's no way um, to control something outside of yourself. So instead of that seeming like it's going to send you into a panic because it's like you're not in control of anything, see it as like you're signing off, right? You don't have to control anything by yourself. You are the only thing that you're responsible for. And I know, like, if you have young children or if you have animals or, you know, um, employees or whatever. You're like, yeah, but I'm in charge of all of these people and there's all these moving parts. Yes, that is perhaps your role, but still, you yourself is what you're responsible for, And then, I mean, if anybody has ever had a toddler, even though you as a parent are responsible for feeding them and keeping them safe and teaching them and all these things, they have a will of their own, right? They are very much an independent person. So anyway, just imagine the concept of all you're responsible for is yourself. And if that's all you're responsible for, how how much more present you can be from moment to moment, like from now to now, right? Because just 2 seconds ago, when I said that, that's already the past, and I can't go back there, right? That all you have to do is just be present, be present, be present, and things things are much more efficient that way. And it becomes, they say life is about the journey, not the destination. I'm not saying it's about the present moment, not reaching towards some other place that you haven't gotten there yet. Because when you're holding, let's just say, worry about the future in your present awareness, then that is what you are experiencing, is that worry. The worry with something that maybe hasn't happened yet. And maybe it's really big, maybe it's really scary, and you're trying to prepare yourself. How am I going to deal with this or whatever? But if that is not in your present moment that you're actually dealing with, how much of your time, focus, and attention do you actually need to sacrifice to that thing? I mean, maybe it's something really important, and that's okay. But if there's just a lot of anxiety and fear around a situation or a person that is outside of you, but that's what you're experiencing in your present moment, then you are also energetically setting the trajectory or the energetic wavelength of like what you're moving towards is going to also be in alignment more with anxiety and stress, whatever. So if that's not what you want, if that's not the future, if that's not the course that you are setting, that you would like to travel on, then that's again why with meditation, with gardening, taking your shoes off and standing on the grass or on the dirt, watching the water go by and just being present in your body and your mind is just in that moment, right? Then that is how you set the course for more experiences like that to come into the future, right? Your vibration, your energy is like the pebble that you're throwing in the pond, and then that's kind of what reaches out in the universe, and the universe says, oh, there are other things that align with that energy, and that's kind of the order that you have placed, right? So perhaps when I go back and watch this uh, video, this will all be like, wow, this was seamless and it made a lot of sense. Maybe I'm rambling. I don't script these, I didn't plan that I would even be saying this right now, but apparently it's pertinent. Maybe somebody needed to hear it or I needed to say it. So, yeah, so that's where we're at. Um, so I have a stack of things to my right. I have 2 books and I have some oracle cards. And I think I've done this before. I don't think I've done this during a live. Maybe I have. I've done a couple of recorded videos where I opened up a book and kind of like whatever page or passage I opened up to was like some kind of message for everyone. It's called bibliomancy, which has been used like since there have been books, right? And so I have 2 books, 2 very different books. And then I also have an oracle deck, which is moonology, and there's a bunch of lunar phases on there. So I'd like to kind of maybe shift into that. If there's any guidance for kind of these big energies that we're stepping into, anticipating. And Yeah, although predictions are cool and, like, I love looking into things like that as well, I feel like the most helpful information, um, pertinent information is really, like, how do we navigate as individuals? How can we, not only survive these times, but thrive in these times? How do we maximize our experience, and how do we like get the most out of our moment to moment experience, right? Um, because I feel like uh, there are a lot of shifts and changes that are outside of our control, and I feel like not only could it go one way or the other way, there are like multiple potentials and possibilities right now. Um, it's a little volatile, I guess. So let me just start with pulling one oracle card and see if there's any information that will be helpful to um, to kind of keep our own individual energies in alignment for, I mean, you could call it your highest good, but I almost feel like it's like that, that richness of the experience, regardless of what's going on anywhere else, in the world. How do we um, how do we get that fullness and that richness in our own lives, regardless if everything crashes and burns or if everything's fine? So let's see. I finally feel the coffee kicking in. Like I just feel like it just went. Jeez, it's like had a fog in my head. Okay. So this card is new moon and Sagittarius. So each one of these cards is like it's a lunar phase and then a zodiac sign. Okay. So no, the new moon is not in Sagittarius. The new moon will be in Aries coming up, but Aries and Sagittarius are both fire signs. And so with this card, oh, jeez. With this card, you see the arrow, right? The Sagittarius energy is of the archer. It is another uh, projective energy. It is aiming and then saying, that is where I'm going. So I feel like this card is telling us to be intentional with our thoughts, intentional with our actions, intentional with our words. And it's saying, like, what do you want to experience next? This is your life. It is truly up to you how you set yourself up now in the present to then get to where you're wanting to go as far as the evolved experience or the next chapter of the experience or whatever it is. And so with an arrow, I don't know if anybody's ever done like archery or shooting a bow and arrow before, but there's very much there's being poised, there is staring down the arrow as far as the target, where you're aiming for. And then there is you hesitate to balance or to still everything. And then it's just a letting go and releasing. So it is yes, there is time for getting everything in alignment. There is a time and a place for, aiming, but then the next step is to say, I've made that choice, and then now I'm going to release that energy, right? So if we just stayed like in uh this poised waiting, and then never, either drew the bow back or we never released the arrow, all we're going to be doing is standing there waiting and second guessing, and then starting to kind of like get off kilter and lose our focus, right? So yes, there is there's an important part of in anything that you're wanting to experience is deciding like what that is. But then there is a point of focus, and then actually taking the action towards that is an essential step, or it's like your energy is not going anywhere. It's just kind of stewing and brewing then at that point. Um, and I'm a big fan of, like manifesting and intention setting and visualization and all of those things. I think those are very, very important. But I'm also not one of those people who thinks like, well, I'm just going to just meditate or, set my intentions and then just expect something just to magically appear and fall in my lap. Sometimes things do manifest that way. I'm not saying that they can't, but I think where a lot of people get hung up is they're like, well, I've been doing all my mantras, I've been doing my affirmations, I've got my vision board, whatever. But if you're not actually taking the human steps, action steps, or paying attention, to the things that the universe starts kind of like showing up like, hey, is this what you wanted? Is this what you're looking for? And you're not like claiming that, then things could, number one, just be passing you by, or you're just like sitting still when like what you're really being called to do now is to like walk towards what you said you wanted to manifest, or to like put in some work, invest your time and energy into making something happen. We don't just sit and meditate and say some mantras and then, our whatever. If you're trying to manifest a new job, you don't just sit there and meditate and say your affirmations and then don't apply for jobs, or don't talk to people about, what opportunities are out there, or like don't answer your phone or your emails or whatever. Like, you have to take the practical steps too, right? So I feel that this card is kind of reminding us of that. But then on the bottom it says luck is on your side. This is I think speaking of that fire energy is a creative energy. It is passionate. It is, it's like being excited and in anticipation of good things that are coming. And there is kind of that fortuitous like leg up, if you can just put all those steps together. Yes, have your positive affirmations. Yes, have your vision board. Give yourself some time for meditation so you can kind of see and feel, what you're wanting to bring into your next life experience. But then also take those practical, necessary action steps, whatever it is, to make that happen, right? And sometimes making something happen is not like you know exerting your will onto other people um or anything. It's just being present enough to where you see how everything's lining up. You feel that intuitive nudge to like say something to someone, or to um I don't know, stop somewhere, and then the paths cross with someone and then things line up. But it is being an active participant in your life. And that's what you are being called to do, for sure. Yeah, that's what I get from that. Okay. So I'm going to open this book. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It's called Like Water for Chocolate. And this book was written in 1989, I think. Let me double check that. Pretty sure it was 89. Oh, that's funny. Sorry, just seeing a little, 1989. And there was a movie that was made later from this book. And the movie is also, I believe, wonderful. I mean, it's awesome. But the book is a treasure because it is magical and there's love, and it's kind of this like almost like folklore, like Mexican folklore magic kind of story. But each chapter is arranged by month, and there's a recipe at the beginning of every chapter. And then the recipe is kind of incorporated to that chapter, and like part of the story, it's woven into it. And since I love cooking and I love magic and I love love, then I mean, no wonder I would love this book, right? But Like Water for Chocolate, it is wonderful. And I am just gonna open. I'm going to do this, and then I'm just going to stop on a page. We'll see what we get. Okay. So, with the intention of what is other helpful information for us at this time, to be anchored, to be present, and to be as much in our own concentrated essence that we can be, so that we can really um, not only manifest something fantastic in the future, but to where we're like aware of it. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see. Let me see here. So, this is talking about sausages. Let me see if it's the other page, but I'll read it. Let's see. This book is also not like X-rated explicit, but it's also there's a lot of spiciness in it. So I'm like, do I read about someone exploring someone's breasts, or do I read about sausage, but it's literally sausage that you would eat? So I guess we'll just go with sausages. So we'll see. Let's see how I can make this relatable and pertinent to the question that I asked. Sit down and get back to work. I don't want any tears. Poor child, I hope the good Lord has taken him in all his glory, but we can't give in to sorrow. There's work to do. First work, then do as you please, except crying. Do you hear? Tita felt a violent agitation take possession of her being, still fingering the sausage. She calmly met her mother's gaze, and then instead of obeying her order, she started to tear apart all of the sausages she could reach, screaming wildly. Here's what I do with your orders. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of obeying you. Mama Elena went to her, picked up a wooden spoon, and smashed her across the face with it. You did it. You killed Roberto, screamed Tita, beside herself, and she ran from the room, wiping the blood that dripped from her nose. She took the pigeon. She took the pigeon and a pail full of worms and climbed up to the dovecote. Mama Elena ordered them to remove the ladder and let her stay up there overnight. Mama Elena and Chencha finished filling the sausages in silence. Mama Elena was always such a perfectionist and so careful to get all the air out of the sausage, no one would explain it when they discovered a week later that all the sausages in the cellar were swarming with worms. Okay, so let's unpack that. So, one, if you haven't seen the movie, or if you haven't read the book, one really important element about this book and the recipes and the food is how much emotion and emotion and emotional outbursts and feelings, how much that affects the food. So there are multiple stories in the book where if someone was experiencing sadness and they're making a cake, for example, then the tears and the sadness went into the cake. And then as the other people were eating the cake, then they're all mourning their past loves, their missed opportunities, blah, 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 because this was kind of the essence that was put into the food. So I don't know if you really followed much. I've read the book many times, but kind of what was happening is there was the main character, her mother and her sister, that were in the kitchen, and they were making sausages. And if you've ever made sausages, there's the ground meat and the ingredients, and they're put into the casing, and then you twist them or tie them up, and then they're cured or smoked or whatever it is. So that's what they were doing. They were literally making sausages, right? But at the very last part of what I read, it said that even though everything was made to perfection, her mother made the food to perfection, and it should have been basically made foolproof, that there were worms, literal, right? So they were festering, they were ruined when they went to check them after being in storage. And so it's like the negative energy of the mother showed up in the food, right? It was almost like put into the food, and it spoiled the food, basically, is what that was saying. Um, and so what stood out to me is not only that, I guess kind of that energy of that, what and whether this is your food or this is your life or this is a project that you're working on or whatever it is, whatever emotional energy that you have that is, it could be under the surface, it could be the words that you're saying, whatever it is that, when you are doing something or making something, um, and there's something that is made with love, you can feel that, you can taste it, right? But then if there's anger, if there's oppression, if there's fear, whatever it is, not only in your food or in a project or something like that, that energy is going to transfer into whatever you're making or creating as well. So I think that that's one thing that comes out of reading this passage. Now, another thing though, and like I said, I just read it once. I don't know how well it translated, I guess. But was that there was Tita, who is the main character, that her mother was telling her, well, you just get back to work and you just need to do this. And Tita, and this is from like, I think like late 1800s, early 1900s, this is a very like traditional, authoritarian kind of household, right? And like the dad's dead, but the mother is like, she runs a tight ship. And so for the main character to speak out against her mother and to say, I'm not going to do what you say anymore. I can't, I won't. And kind of standing up to that authority. Well, of course, there was very swift uh, repercussion of that, but still she could not have that outburst anymore. She could not just sit there and bite her tongue and just suffer through like she typically had. So this is telling me that that feeling of, you may be feeling like brewing inside of you. You may see it more societally speaking, or in your external world, of like rebelling, standing up against like authority, especially authority that's just um doesn't need to be the authority. They're the authority because they are, not because they're actually doing a good job, or they're, we're being told to do things or not do things, but it's not necessarily in our best interest at all. Okay. That kind of concept, is that there is this growing feeling of rebellion, of standing up, rising up against tyranny, basically. And you could be seeing this in your family life. You could be seeing this just like in a family dynamics. You could see it more societally speaking or whatever. I'm not going to dig into that too much, like politically speaking. But you may be feeling that, whether it's in your own personal life or just kind of feeling something like that brewing. And I think that um, the way to kind of make that message be applicable to the question that I asked, and like, how do we prepare? How do we really, have this deep immersion and this real experience in the present moment, but setting us up for success in the future, is saying that sometimes you do like reach that breaking point, and there can be repercussions from you expressing that breaking point, from you speaking out against quote unquote authority, or saying, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Right. I mean, but that isn't necessarily, it could be a deterrent, but it's like you have to decide kind of what's more important, or what the risk factor is, or if you speaking your truth or saying, I don't agree with this, I'm not going to be a part of this, or whatever it is, if that is more important than the whatever actions the other party could take, right? So I think it's really like getting in alignment with what your truth is and what your values are, and saying, uh, just because things have been done a certain way for a long time, or it's what everybody else is doing, or what's expected of you, or how other people would react or feel, or whatever it is, Are those good enough reasons to not honor you, yourself, your path, your truth? Sometimes I guess it is. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to just rebel against everything that you don't agree with. Sometimes it's like that's too much of a risk, or that's, it's not worth whatever the trade off is, or at least at this time. But I feel like as we are seeing with less filters, the blinders are getting smaller, so we're seeing more, that we are reevaluating our own truths because we're aware of really a little bit more of what's truly going on. And I think less and less people are going along with, well, this is just how it's done or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but that's stupid. That's wrong, and it's like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's okay. And the more people that do that, you know, the more people aren't playing into some false thing anymore. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, anyway, hopefully that bit of bibliomancy was helpful. I mean, it makes sense to me. Um, this is going to be fun. I have no idea what the hell is going to come out of this one. Okay, you ready? Oh, frick. Okay, this is a huge book. It's very heavy. This was in the free bin at McKay's like 2 years ago. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm getting the Chronicle of the 20th Century book. The conspiracy theorist in me wanted to check some of the things and then like Wikipedia or Google them and see if it's the same information or if it's been changed. Because this book, let's see when it was published. Da, da, da. Jesus, where is it? Well, this says first publication in Germany, 1982, printed in Belgium. Yeah, that's what it says. 1982, is that what it said? Interesting. All right, so this book, The Chronicle of the 20th Century. So I'm going to open up this book and see what else we need to know. Okay, I'm going to put it in my lap here. This is fun. So, again, setting the question with the intention of what is helpful or pertinent information that we need to be aware of or mindful of for the present moment, and then the energies that are most likely to come down the pipeline. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Okay. Shit. Okay. Fun times. 1939 is what I opened to. This says September. What? This is cool. This book is awesome. I kind of get lost in this stuff. Okay. September 1939 is what it says. And there's like a whole timeline of all the things that happened in September 1939. August 23rd, Nazis and communists shook hands today in Moscow. Largest peacetime order for warplanes on August 10th. Europe is mobilizing for the inevitable. Fun times. This is all like World War II prep stuff. Nazis invade Poland, divide country with Russia. And this is interesting. This is what stands out to me the most. Says FDR changes the date for Thanksgiving. August 14th, President Roosevelt shattered another precedent today when he announced the move of Thanksgiving Day from November 30th to November 23rd this year. He explained that many had urged the shift to create a holiday less close to Christmas. While retailers welcome the change, it gives football schedulers a headache. Their big day of games is now a mere Thursday in November. From Plymouth, where the first day of Thanksgiving was held in 1621, comes hearty disapproval. since Abraham Lincoln named the last Thursday of November as the day in 1864, subsequent presidents have followed suit. Until now, that is. Well, I was not aware of that whole thing. I guess if somebody's feeling extra googly right now, or I'll look it up later, I guess, I mean, I know it's always Thanksgiving's on a Thursday, right? And it's really never is it like the third? I think it's the third Thursday of November, I think is Thanksgiving, right? Never looked into the fact that it used to be the last Thursday of the month. So this is funny. What I'm getting from this, I mean, and there's all this other stuff about Nazis and other things on this page. 1939, September, my grandmother would have been 6. She would, yeah, 5 or let's see, 32 to 39, so 7. She was no, she would have been 6 because her birthday was in December. Anyway, she was a young child. But what stands out to me about this is that time and dates and what we not like hold sacred, but just kind of what we expect. Like, oh yeah, like Thanksgiving's always the third Thursday, which I think that's kind of how it is now, right? I had no idea that it used to be the last Thursday of the month, and this was like a presidential proclamation or whatever, made by freaking Abraham Lincoln, right? And then FDR's like, we're just gonna change it now. It's better for retailers. Okay. But I was talking to someone else today about daylight savings time and about how there are all these it's what we agree on societally about this is what time it is. This is what time zone we're in. This is the date that we're celebrating this thing, right? It's all like we're trying to stay on the same page so we can keep up with stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean that uh it is infallible like historical uh what am I saying? I'm saying that if the president can just say, "Well, yeah, we're just going to celebrate Thanksgiving on this day now because it just works better for everybody." Like, and I know people have issues with Thanksgiving and the Native Americans like Christopher Columbus. Like, I get that, but this is what was on the page and this is the concept that we're discussing right now. But it's just kind of like just because we're doing something on one day doesn't mean that historically that is accurate. It is maybe a matter of convenience, maybe it's a matter of agenda. Um, and Easter's funny, right? We're coming up onto Easter. Easter is it is the first new moon after the equinox, I believe is how that's set up. It is the only quote unquote Christian holiday that is based on the lunar calendar. This kind of lingering, on the lunar calendar. There are other cultures and religions that use more of a lunar calendar for their holy days and everything. But it is interesting to me how things, very important dates that are just a more secular holiday or a religious holiday, or even like I said, like daylight savings time or anything like that. How accurate is that actually versus what we're like, yeah, we're just going to do it on this day or whatever. So all of that is to say, very inarticulately, probably, and I apologize, is that it's almost like the foundational fabric of what we have been told is right, is real, is even like with history, like, oh, this happened then, things like that. That that is kind of up for debate at this point. Um, a lot of the stuff probably doesn't even freaking matter. Like, really. Like, Thanksgiving being on the 3rd Thursday or the last Thursday. I mean, does it really matter? I don't know. I think it's interesting. I never knew that fact. Um, but I think that the whole point behind this message is a lot of things actually don't matter that we're being told that we're supposed to focus on, or we're supposed to get all up in arms about, or we're supposed to really be concerned about. And then there are other things, dates, times, facts, and figures that actually are very, very pivotal and very, very important, uh, that we should try to get to the bottom of. Or we should try to say, I've researched a bit. I think that I have some good information. This is what truly resonates with me and makes sense to me, or I trust, this expert or historian or whatever. And that might be contrary to what you learned in school. That might be contrary into what other people think or believe. And this is something, there are differences between like facts and opinions, right? Some people don't realize that. Some people state their opinions as if they are facts. And that's not how it works, right? But I feel that here, I'll show this to you guys. This is a really heavy book. But I really feel like what we've been told are facts might actually be opinions. We might learn that too. This is the book. See, 1939. And then, oh my God. There, FDR changes date for Thanksgiving. That's what I was reading. That's what stood out to me the most. So anyway, I'm going to look in this book some more because it's very interesting. So anyway, I feel like this is very much a clarifying time for all of us. First and foremost, as individuals, then we bring our really awesome, rendered down ideas together, and we put our heads together and we come up with a new plan that's better than whatever shit show we're experiencing right now. But for the time being, do a little digging, use your discernment. Just because you have been told your entire life that you're supposed to do something, or this is how it is, that actually might not be true. It might be, but it might not be true. And ultimately, you came here to experience your life. And your will, your intention is the most important thing for your immersed life experience. And you actually do have complete control over that. And that's about it. So I think those are the messages for today. I think that with the solar eclipse that we have coming in on the 8th, hopefully it will kind of blast through some of the BS. Might have a little bit of clarity on the other side of that. And not to get too wrapped up into, fervor, chaos type stuff. But this is quite an interesting prep for this eclipse. I've experienced many different solar eclipses in my lifetime. I mean, they happen pretty regularly, whether we actually can see them in the US is, it doesn't happen quite as often. But there is a lot of emergency preparedness around this eclipse, which maybe everybody's just trying to be super organized and just say, in the case of an emergency, or in the case of there being a lot of people traveling and going to these places to see the totality of the eclipse, like these are just like normal preparedness things that you need to do. Like, make sure you got water, make sure that, you got jumper cables, make sure that, if you have medications, you got those on you. I mean, that's like standard like stuff. Like, what if you get stranded, or, there's more traffic than normal because people are trying to see the eclipse or whatever. But there's like a lot of prepping going on, like government agencies, local, governments and everything going, prepare. So Always be prepared and be smart and make sure you got what you need. But a lot of the information is coming out around this eclipse. So like um the doomsdayers are saying like, why, is there some big thing like planned for the eclipse, what's going to happen? And who knows, I don't really know at this point. I don't really know anymore. It's kind of like, oh, what's going to happen today or whatever, it's like you don't know at this point. But I think be smart in general, not just because it's the eclipse is happening or whatever, but like don't be like, don't be without what you need. I mean, if you're traveling, if you're going on a road trip, like make sure you have basic essential things that you might need, because the infrastructure, emergency response vehicles and local law enforcement or whatever may be a little overtaxed because of extra people going to view the eclipse. That's the most like rational. Just like take care of your own shit. Just don't rely on somebody else to come and save you, kind of stuff. And then if there were to be some kind of other thing that happens on the eclipse, then you got your stuff, right? You got your stuff that you need. So, or not just the eclipse, anytime. Right? So, anyway, yeah. All right. So, any questions? So much talk about nuclear war lately. Sorry, survival dirt bikes. I missed your comment. I'm not sure when you said that. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about all kinds of just like horrible potentials, like World War III. You know, like some people say it's already happening. Uh, so yeah, I mean, there's a potential for a lot of just crap, but that's like I feel like being prepared and saying that I have a means to feed myself, clothe myself, stay out of the elements, feed my family, protect myself, things like that. We need those as humans, regardless if like there's a shit show going on outside or not. Like just good to be prepared. And the cool thing is if you are somewhat prepared, like know how to grow your own food, that's kind of stuff. Then if you're prepared, then it's like, if something like that happens, even a natural disaster, well, at least I have some way to take care of myself, right? Or if you're just like watching the news all the time and it's like there's this impending doom, and I'm not saying survival dirt bikes that you're saying that, right? But I'm just addressing like worry, 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 but then you don't have any, you're not taking those practical steps saying, well, I am worried, I am concerned, but I am prepared. Then it's just like you are really like spinning around in just a vortex of stress. Why do that to yourself? Like take some of that nervous energy and do something productive with it, right? Yeah, that's smart. But then there are a lot of things like, you know, maniacal egomaniacs pressing buttons and sending bombs or moving chess pieces or whatever, like that we really don't have a lot of control over that. I mean, you can like vote, or whatever. You can do things, speak out, to try to make some shifts and changes. But you're not in control of what that other person or those other people are doing. So you do what you are in control of. Try to take care of yourself first, right? And your family. So I'm a doomsday prepper too. It's okay. Yeah. I think everybody should be like, I think everybody should be like, um, everybody should know how to protect themselves and how to provide for themselves and keep themselves healthy and well. I think everybody should know how to do that. And if you don't, ask somebody to help you, or there's a lot of awesome information out there, even on freaking YouTube. Yeah, because just going, oh, somebody else will do it, or if I need any food, I'll just go to the grocery store. Well, yes, that is a place where we get food, but you know, there was a time that we experienced a couple years ago where there was like you couldn't get everything you needed at the grocery store. So anyway, fun times. All right. So y'all, thanks for hanging with me. And if nobody has any questions or other comments, then we will wrap this up. I mean, I love talking about I mean, I don't like talking about the end of the world. I mean, it sucks, but I do like talking about it and talking to other people. Maybe the energy updates will also be that stuff now too. Who knows? I don't know. I've there's shifts coming in my life and my business life and stuff too, and I don't know what it is yet, but I'm working on it. Not stressing, just doing. So, anyway, hope y'all have a good night. Have let's see. Yes, we will talk before the eclipse. We'll talk before the solar eclipse. So, we will we will touch base next Wednesday. Hope y'all have a good night and uh I was going to say something sarcastic about Easter, but I'm not going to do that. So, hope you have a good night and I will see you all next week. Yeah. Thank you.